put the chainsaw down, Karen now." She didn't even flinch, just smirked, lifting her kale smoothie like she was making a toast. "Why? It's not your fence." "It's on the easement." I stepped closer, boots crunching over splinters that used to be mine. "That's not an easement. That's my property. My fence." "Correction," she said, swirling her drink like a villain in yoga pants. "Was your fence. I fixed your mistake." "My mistake?" I stared at the gaping hole where cedar panels used to stand. 3 days of work, 12 hours each, gone in one afternoon. "You trespassed, destroyed my property, and you think you did me a favor?" She smiled wider. "I think you should thank me. Now I don't have to walk all the way around your precious fence every morning." "You cut it because you didn't want to walk 20 feet? She shrugged, the sunlight bouncing off her designer sunglasses. "I call it reclaiming access. HOA said this strip was shared. You should read your covenants." "No," I said, voice low. "You should read the trespass law." For a moment, silence. Just whined, the faint drip of sap from the open wood, and the whine of the still cool chainsaw motor between us like a living threat. Then she leaned forward, smile sharp as the blade in her hand. "Go ahead, Ethan. Call the cops. I'm sure they'll love hearing your story about a fence." For a heartbeat, I thought I had misheard her. Maybe I had stumbled into a prank show. The smell of raw cedar and gasoline burned in my nose. "You cut through 10 feet of lumber because you did not feel like walking 60 extra feet?" She nodded, utterly calm. "Efficiency. You should try it sometime." I felt my voice go flat. "You are going to pay for that." Karen tilted her head, smirk returning. "Oh, I already checked. This area is technically shared open space. You fenced it off illegally." "I am just reclaiming what is mine." That word, reclaiming, landed harder than the chainsaw's roar. She said it like she was leading a revolution instead of vandalizing private property. I took a step closer, the gravel crunching beneath my boots. "You have lived here 6 months," I said. "You do not even know where your mailbox is half the time." 6 months is long enough to spot arrogance, she shot back. I wanted to laugh, but the absurdity was so complete it short-circuited humor. I turned, walked inside before I said something I would regret. From my window, I could still see her on the other side, taking selfies with the ruined fence, like it was modern art. That night, I paced the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence. My hands itched to rebuild the fence, but logic told me to slow down. Karen was not impulsive. She was calculatedly wrong. The kind of wrong that hides behind confidence. I spent the next day on the phone with zoning enforcement, digging through property maps, scanning the original 1987 survey. Everything confirmed what I already knew. My fence sat well within my boundary. But knowing and proving are two different beasts. So I documented photos, timestamps, official letters. When the inspector finally called back, he laughed softly through the phone. "You are good, sir. If anything, her property line ends 3 feet short of yours." "Perfect," I said, because something tells me she is not done. I was right. The next morning, a new addition appeared in my flower bed, a laminated sign reading, "Private pathway, do not obstruct." Laminated. She had taken time to waterproof her insanity. I stood there, coffee mug in hand, equal parts furious and impressed. That was the day I decided to stop reacting and start playing her game smarter. The county website became my nightly reading. 3 hours into one search, I found it. A narrow parcel attached to her lot that had fallen off the tax rolls. She had not paid on it in years. Technically, it was not hers. It was not anyone's. Yet, the county listed it for public auction at the end of the quarter. I stared at the screen, pulse steadying. The price, $117. The irony, priceless. I placed the bid and closed the laptop. No celebration, just a slow, deliberate breath. Days passed. Karen carried on like she owned the world. She threw a neighborhood social that spilled cheap wine onto my mulch bed and flattened 2 hostas I had spent summers nurturing. When I asked her guests to move their cars off my lawn, she laughed and offered me a tofu skewer. I smiled, said nothing, took pictures instead. Then the envelope arrived, heavy, official. The deed was mine. That tiny sliver of land she strutted across daily now belonged to me. For the first time in weeks, I slept like a child. Saturday morning dawned warm and quiet. She left for yoga in her usual burst of scented self-importance. I called the contractor. By noon, a 6-foot privacy wall stretched across the gap. Smooth, legal, immaculate. At 3:45 sharp, the piece shattered. "You cannot build this here." Her voice cut across the neighborhood. I stepped outside, calm, holding the manila envelope. "Actually, I can, and I did." She stomped closer, waving her arms. "This is my access point. You are blocking me in." "Blocking you out," I corrected, handing her the deed. She scanned the document, eyes flicking back and forth, searching for a loophole that did not exist. Her face twisted, and for a heartbeat I saw it, the crack in her confidence. Then she tore the copy in half and stormed off without another word. I thought that might be the end. It was not. 2 mornings later, a county inspector showed up with a clipboard. "Complaint says your wall is too close to a drainage path." I led him around back, showed him the permits, the measurements, and the photos of Karen's illegal landscaping funneling water into my yard. He whistled low. "Well, that is something. I will file this as resolved." When I walked him back to his truck, he added, "You have got one determined neighbor." "Determined is one word," I said. That evening, someone dumped a heap of compost in my driveway. No note, but the smell was distinct, rot and defeat. I shoveled it with a grin. By then, petty sabotage felt like progress. A week later, a letter arrived, cheap stationery, printed threats from a bus bench attorney demanding I restore traditional neighborhood access or face legal consequences. I drafted a single-page response. "You destroyed my fence. You trespassed. You ignored county law. The land is now mine. Future correspondence may be sent to my legal counsel." Truth was, I did not have counsel. I had Google. But bluffing works better with letterhead. After that, silence. For a few peaceful weeks, I believed the saga had ended, until the orange flags showed up. Dozens of them, fluttering across my lawn like tiny warnings. Confused, I followed them to the edge of my shed where 2 men in reflective vests were unloading equipment. "What is this?" I asked. "Gas line reroute," one said. "New main running through this strip." "This strip?" I pointed at the land I had just bought. "Yep, shared community easement." I felt my jaw tighten. "Who filed the work order?" He checked his clipboard. "K. Madsen." I laughed, a short, sharp sound. "You have got the wrong person." Turns out, Karen had submitted a fraudulent request using my parcel number and her fake P.O. box. It was not just petty anymore, it was criminal. I called the utility office, then the police. When the detective came by, he shook his head. "We have seen nuisance neighbors, but this is creative." "Want to press charges?" "Only if she keeps going," I said. "But something tells me she will." That night, I sat at my desk, surrounded by property maps and cold coffee. I was not angry anymore. I was strategic. Every boundary line, every parcel number felt like a chessboard waiting for checkmate. Then, in the middle of a dusty archive file, I found it, the mistake she had never noticed. Her detached garage overlapped another sliver of land. Not hers, not even part of her deed. A leftover parcel from a decades-old title transfer. The real owner had died intestate. The county held it in limbo. Dormant property, forgotten. I leaned back, staring at the discovery glowing on my monitor. For the first time since she had revved that chainsaw, I smiled, not out of spite, but clarity. She had torn down my fence because she thought she could redefine boundaries. Now I would show her what boundaries really meant. Outside, the night hummed with cicadas. The scent of cedar still lingered faintly where the fence had once stood. I closed my laptop, slid the printed documents into the same manila folder I had given her before, and whispered to no one in particular, "Your move, Karen." When the county clerk confirmed the parcel under Karen's garage had officially been declared dormant, I did not feel triumph. I felt precision, like aligning the last domino before the fall. I submitted my bid that same afternoon, no hesitation, no second thoughts. For the price of a microwave, I became the legal owner of the ground beneath the outer third of her garage. I did not tell anyone, not my friends, not even the county detective who had helped with her fraud report. Some victories have to germinate quietly. 2 weeks later, a thick envelope arrived. The paper smelled faintly of ink and inevitability. I opened it at the kitchen table, the morning sun catching the embossed county seal. Title granted. I owned it. The concrete foundation of her garage now sat partly on my land. I sat there for a long minute, fingers pressed against the document, feeling the slow burn of justice settle into something colder. Strategy. That evening, I typed a letter on cream stationery. Notice of encroachment. Simple, professional, devastating. I explained that a portion of her structure stood illegally on my parcel and that unless she wished to purchase it at a negotiated premium, I would be filing for forced removal under structural code violations. In layman's terms, she had 30 days to tear down part of her garage or pay me more money than her car was worth. The next morning, I heard the knock. Sharp, angry. Karen stood on my porch in a robe and slippers, mascara smudged like war paint. She held my letter in one trembling hand and a mug in the other. "You have gone too far," she hissed. "This is harassment. Malicious property warfare." I opened the door fully, calm. "No, Karen, this is real estate." She glared, words forming but refusing to leave her mouth. Instead, she dumped the mug's contents across my welcome mat, coffee, black, and stormed off. That was her last display of control before the machinery of the law caught up. Within a week, she filed a zoning appeal. She even hired a new lawyer, one who at least wore a tie. They tried to claim adverse possession, arguing that because the garage had stood for decades, she had acquired permanent rights. The hearing lasted 20 minutes. The judge glanced at the paperwork, raised an eyebrow, and delivered the verdict. The structure was never merged with the parcel. The encroachment was illegal. She had 45 days to remove or repurchase. When she left the courthouse, she did not look angry. She looked hollow. Days later, a "For Sale by Owner" sign appeared on her lawn, written in hurried Sharpie, crooked, desperate. Every time I walked past, she would be out there with a tape measure, pacing the edges of her yard like a prisoner measuring a cell. She still waved at passing cars, still tried to project that suburban serenity, but the mask was cracking. I could hear it in her voice when she barked at delivery drivers, see it in the way she started keeping her porch light on all night. Her retaliation turned childish, music blasting toward my house at 7 in the morning, trash bins half blocking my driveway, sprinklers left running until dawn. None of it mattered. The balance had shifted. Then, one evening near dusk, a silver sedan pulled up to my curb. A man in a suit stepped out, holding a briefcase and a rolled blueprint. "Mr. Ridley?" he asked. Speaking. "I represent North Point Developments. We are acquiring property nearby. We understand you own the narrow parcel beneath the Madsen garage." "Understand correctly," I said. He smiled thinly. "Would you consider selling? We can offer 20 times your purchase price." I could have accepted on the spot, but leverage is a meal best eaten slowly. "Maybe," I said. "But I would require one condition. That structure has to be cleared before any transaction. No exceptions." The man nodded. "We can work with that." 2 days later, a stranger showed up in Karen's driveway, taking photos, clipboard, laser measure, the works. Not a realtor, not a friend. He measured the garage, the fence, even the privacy wall. I trimmed the hedge, and pretended not to watch, but my chest hummed with the electric thrill of inevitability. That night, curiosity won. I searched every real estate site, and there it was, Karen's listing, buried deep under newly updated corner home. The description read, like satire, charming property with recent structural modifications and room for expansion. Not a word about the missing garage section or the legal landmine beneath it. The price, 20% above any comparable sale. But the brilliance, if you could call it that, was in the fine print, subject to buyer's ability to resolve minor encumbrance with adjacent parcel owner. Translation, she was trying to sell her problem to someone else. I almost respected the audacity. Almost. Still, something about the desperation did not add up, so I called my buddy Nick, who worked in title insurance. Over whiskey and steak, he ran the background. When he returned, his tone carried both disbelief and admiration. She took out a massive home equity loan 3 months after moving in, double the house's value, missed half her payments. She is underwater, so she is trying to dump the property before the bank catches up, I said. Exactly. It all made sense. The sudden friendliness, the waves from her porch, the cookies left on my doorstep with a note that said, "No hard feelings. I did not touch them." Manipulation wrapped in sugar. 2 days later, she came in person. I opened the door to find her looking smaller, tired. "Look," she began softly, "we have had our issues, but this has gotten ridiculous. We are neighbors. We do not have to be enemies." I kept silent. Let her fill the air. If I can sell the house, I can pay off the loan. I just need your cooperation. A letter saying you are open to negotiating access to that strip. Nothing binding, just goodwill. There it was, the play. I almost laughed. You want me to undo my own deed for your convenience? It is just a gesture, she said, voice cracking. It helps me close. I will think about it, I told her, and watched hope flicker across her face like a dying bulb. The moment she left, I drafted a different kind of letter to my developer contact. Told him I was ready to sell the garage parcel under 2 conditions, guaranteed demolition and permission to monitor the process with my own cameras. He agreed immediately. Then came the twist. A new envelope arrived, different logo, law firm stationery. Our client is interested in acquiring parcel 8771B, currently under your ownership. They are prepared to offer a substantial cash settlement. The listed buyer was a Shell LLC registered in Florida. The agent's name rang a faint bell. I dug deeper. Registered agent, C. Madsen, Karen's cousin. I actually laughed this time. She was trying to buy the land from me anonymously, thinking I would fold if the number was high enough. Cute. So I called the attorney listed on the letter. Tell your client, I said, that I will sell only as part of a full acquisition package. Her house, her garage, and the strip. One deal, one absurdly large price. He paused. That is considerably above market. Then you can tell your client she is welcome to build a garage on air. 3 days later, another knock. Karen again, but the pretense was gone. No makeup, no smile. Fury stripped her voice raw. Do you honestly think you can bleed me like this? You are ruining everything. I met her gaze. No, Karen. I am protecting what is mine. You started this when you cut down my fence. Remember? Her mouth opened, closed. Then she turned and stormed off, nearly tripping over her own sprinkler hose. That was when I knew she was cracking, and cracks have to widen before they break. The next morning, I printed flyers. FOR sale, investment opportunity, partial ownership of 114 Sycamore via access parcel rights. I taped one to the privacy wall, one to the street lamp, and uploaded a photo to the local Facebook gossip group. Within hours, comments exploded. Everyone in the neighborhood knew who it was about. The shortcut queens getting boxed in, one user joked. The laughter spread faster than the rumor ever could. By sunset, Karen had called the police, claiming harassment. The officer who arrived looked at the flyer, then at my deed, and shrugged. Weird, sure. Illegal, Not so much. I handed him a soda, thanked him for his time, and watched Karen fume from her porch. 2 nights later, a moving truck appeared. Small, more like a retreat than a move. Boxes, suitcases, no furniture. The endgame was coming, but I wanted it on my terms. I called the developer again. I will accept your offer, I said, but I want the demolition clause in writing and permission to oversee everything. Done, he replied. As the paperwork finalized, I looked across the property line one last time. Her herb garden drooped, half dead. The warped bench sat under a string of lights she had not bothered to take down. A ceramic gnome stared toward my house like even it wanted to escape. Somewhere deep down, I felt a flicker of pity. Quick, fragile, gone in an instant. Because I knew the next step. And it would end more than her pride. It would erase the illusion she had built her life on. When the county records office opened that morning, I was already parked out front with a coffee that had gone cold. The air smelled like rain and wet asphalt, perfect weather for quiet victories. I had learned that Karen's so-called tranquility zone at the back of her house was not hers either. On paper, it was an abandoned utility easement, 600 square feet of neglected ground that had not seen a legitimate owner in 20 years. Unpaid administrative back taxes, $6,142. I paid it before finishing the coffee. 2 weeks later, a plain envelope arrived. Title confirmed. I now owned the forgotten strip of land behind her yard. With that, the puzzle clicked into place. The shortcut path, the garage foundation, and now the rear easement, all legally mine. Alone, they were meaningless scraps. Together, they formed a ring. A quiet, perfect trap made entirely of paper and patience. Saturday morning, I brought a small crew and a tape measure. We walked the boundary in silence, measuring angles, verifying points. Karen must have seen us from her kitchen because 10 minutes later she came storming out the back door in yoga pants and fury. "What are you doing now?" she demanded. "Measuring my property," I said, not looking up. "Your property? This is my backyard." I straightened, unfolded the deed, and handed it to her in the same manila folder I had used before. Not anymore. She read it once, twice, her lips moving as if reciting a spell that refused to work. "You are insane," she muttered. "Maybe," I said, "but I am also the legal owner of the ground under your gnome." I nodded toward the little ceramic figure by her herb bed. "I would advise moving him unless you want him hauled off with the debris." Her jaw trembled, but words failed her. She snatched the gnome like it was a child and backed toward her deck, clutching it against her chest. My crew kept working, marking chalk lines, noting dimensions. I did not plan to build anything yet, but I wanted her to see the potential. Sometimes fear of what is possible is more powerful than what is real. By the next afternoon, the entire neighborhood knew. People I had never spoken to before stopped me on my evening walk. "Is it true?" one man asked, half grinning. "You bought her whole backyard?" "Not quite," I said. "Just enough to keep her honest." He laughed. Best thing that has happened on this street in years. Someone taped a sign to the community mailbox later that week, "Coming soon, Karen's house, some assembly required." Even I had to laugh. But Karen did not. The for sale sign still stood in her yard, though the price had dropped twice. The new listing photos avoided showing the backyard at all. Instead, they focused on the kitchen backsplash and the living room. The illusion was almost artistic, like showing a car ad that cropped out the missing tires. Then one afternoon, a black Mercedes with dealer plates pulled into her driveway. A man in a dark suit stepped out, polished, expensive, confident. He did not knock. Instead, he unfolded blueprints on his hood and began taking measurements along her driveway. I wandered over, pretending curiosity. "You here for a showing?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "I am here on behalf of a potential buyer. Anyone I would know?" "Doubtful. My client is anonymous." That was all I needed to hear. Karen was not selling to just anyone. She was selling to someone big. Developers, builders, people who could wipe the map clean and start over. People who would not care about her mistakes, or mine, if the payout was right. That night, I made 2 calls. The first to the city planning department. I told them I was researching contiguous lot lines for a potential landscaping expansion and wanted updates on any zoning changes nearby. The second to Nick. Do me a favor, I said. Run a check on zoning requests for Karen's address. He called back the next day. You are not going to like this. There is a quiet request filed last week to rezone her lot as mixed-use residential, which means someone wants to stack units, duplexes, maybe townhomes. Big money. I stared out the window at her house, at the string lights still flickering across the gap where my fence once stood. Not gonna happen, I said. Zoning boards move slowly, but they listen to public outrage faster than paperwork. I printed flyers, rallied neighbors, and filed a formal objection. Proposed development will strain infrastructure, disrupt neighborhood character, and infringe upon existing privacy easements. Within days, half the street had signed my petition. Turns out Karen had made plenty of enemies long before me. The guy she once reported for an unauthorized flag display, the couple whose toddler she yelled at for sidewalk chalk, the family with the autistic son she called too loud. They all showed up when the zoning meeting was announced. The day of the hearing, the community center buzzed with quiet anticipation. The suited man was there again, flanked by a lawyer who looked like he would rather be anywhere else. I sat in the back, arms folded. When the board chair asked for public comment, hands shot up like fireworks. Complaint after complaint. Drainage, traffic, privacy, noise. Each word built a wall taller than anything I could have constructed with bricks. The developer's lawyer stumbled through technicalities. The board grilled them about setbacks, easements, utilities. They floundered. After 30 minutes, the chair finally said, "We will take this under advisement." Bureaucratic translation, denied in slow motion. The suit left without looking at me. I did not smile. I did not have to. 3 days later, Karen's listing disappeared from every site. No pending, no sold, just gone. That evening, a small U-Haul appeared in her driveway. I watched from my porch as she loaded boxes alone. No friends, no family, just a single woman stuffing the remains of her empire into cardboard. She looked over once, expression unreadable, somewhere between fury and exhaustion. She did not wave. Neither did I. When the truck pulled away, I stood there longer than I expected, feeling something close to relief, but not joy. I thought that was the end, but Karen had one last move. 3 days later, a letter arrived from the county clerk's office. Notice of quiet title action. Filed by K. Madsen. She was attempting to retroactively claim ownership of the original shortcut parcel I had bought at auction, citing continuous and open use. It was an old legal trick, adverse possession through prescription. If she could prove she had used the land without challenge for a set number of years, she might reclaim it. The problem? She had not even lived there that long, and I had documentation thicker than a novel showing every cease and desist, every complaint, every trespass photo since the day she fired up that chainsaw. Still, I was not leaving it to chance. I built my counterclaim like I built my fence, sturdy, over-documented, airtight. I included timestamps, survey maps, certified letters, even screenshots of her social media captions bragging about her shared open space. When the hearing day came, I wore the same calm expression she used to wear when she thought she owned me. Karen did not show. Her lawyer did. Alone, tired, embarrassed. He stumbled through his argument, knowing the futility. The judge flipped through the stack of exhibits I had provided, sighing as he reached the laminated private pathway sign Karen had planted in my flower bed a year earlier. Then he looked at me. "Mr. Ridley," he said, "is there any particular reason you named the public-facing area of your property Karen's Shortcut Memorial Park?" I met his gaze. "Yes, Your Honor. It is a reminder that ignoring boundaries has consequences." A few chuckles rippled through the room. The judge allowed himself the faintest smirk before signing the dismissal. Claim denied. Ownership stands. It did not feel like fireworks. It felt like quiet exhale, like finishing a marathon you did not sign up for. Outside the courthouse, the autumn wind carried the smell of rain and wood smoke. I stood there a while before driving home. That night, I walked through what was once the battlefield, now a simple park. Gravel path, trimmed shrubs, a bench where her gnome used to stand. I sat down, looking across the street at her old house. The grass was overgrown, shutters sagging, foreclosure notice taped to the window. No buyers came. Developers lost interest. It had become what it always was destined to be, a monument to stubbornness and pride. As the sun dipped below the tree line, neighbors began to gather. Someone brought folding chairs, another brought lemonade. Laughter rose softly, the first true peace this street had felt in years. Someone had made shirts that said, "Shortcut Survivor." I had not planned any of it. The community just healed itself. Midway through, an older woman approached me. "You were the man who bought all the puzzle pieces," she said kindly. I smiled. "Guess that is one way to put it." "My husband and I moved here in '89, she continued. "Back then, this was all open woods. Over the years, people tried to carve it up and claim bits of it. But no one ever managed to stitch it together again. Until now?" She nodded. "It feels whole again. Not because of what you built, but because of what you stopped." Her words sat with me long after everyone left. Weeks passed. I planted more shrubs, added a wooden archway carved by a local artist. It read, "Boundaries make good neighbors." Not as mockery, just truth. Sometimes, while watering the plants, passers-by would stop to read the sign. Some smiled, others laughed. Occasionally, one would ask, "Who was Karen?" I always gave the same answer. Long story. Because by then, it was not about her anymore. It was about patience, about dignity, about learning that a fence is not just wood and nails, it is peace made visible. Spring came again. Birds nested in the oaks. Greg the squirrel, named after the one who used to raid my feeder, scurried along the new fence line like he had always lived there. I sat on the bench one evening, listening to the quiet hum of the neighborhood, the sound of stillness restored. And in that stillness, I finally understood something. Some people build walls out of spite. Others build them out of survival. I had built mine out of necessity, but what it gave me was something bigger, clarity. Karen taught me that not every battle is about winning. Some are about ending, about reclaiming your peace one boundary at a time. And sometimes, when the world sees you as the quiet neighbor, the one who avoids conflict, who mows his lawn, who minds his own business, it forgets something important. Sometimes, the quiet neighbor is the most dangerous kind, the kind who owns the land under your house. I have thought about that story more times than I can count. Not because I won or because I got the last word, but because it changed how I see people and how I see peace. Karen believed that power came from taking, that control came from shouting the loudest, from bending rules until they broke. But here is the truth. I learned the hard way. Peace does not live in the absence of noise. It lives behind the lines we protect. Boundaries are not barriers. They are declarations of self-respect. Sometimes you cannot reason with chaos. You cannot teach fairness to people who mistake kindness for weakness. And when that happens, your only real weapon is patience and paperwork. So if you have ever dealt with a Karen in your life, someone who tramples your space, disrespects your limits, or believes they can rewrite what is yours, remember this: you do not have to shout to win. You just have to stand your ground, calmly, legally, relentlessly. Because peace is not something you ask for, it is something you build, and when you build it strong enough, it becomes unbreakable. If you made it this far, thank you. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have fought back or walked away? Tell me in the comments. And if you believe every fence, every wall, and every boundary we build has a story behind it, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs a reminder. Respect is not taken. It is earned, one boundary at a time. Dove emoji.